little bit of West Ham news and gossip ahead of tomorrow's game against Everton, which has sort of taken on a little bit more importance than it probably should have done. It's a bit weird, isn't it, being a West Ham fan, because you could go from the highs to the lows pretty damn quickly, and I was pretty buoyant, it has to be said, up at the start of the season. It's not doom and gloom now, but it's not just 2 defeats on the bout. I think it's the manner of them, isn't it, really? They weren't particularly good performances. David Moyes, in his pre-match build-up to the Everton game, was bemoaning the lack of home games earlier on in the season. He thinks it's been disproportionate. Well, it has been. That's not subjective, is it? Disproportionate. Proportionally, we've had more away games than home games, so he's right on that one. And I think he even said that he'd moaned about it, which, again, is fine. And he's got to redress the balance now, hasn't he? If he's got a run of a few home games now, then he has to really sort of make them stick and make them count. I'm not going to talk about that game anymore because it's tomorrow and we've talked about it loads. In terms of like the West Ham news and gossip, there's a few stories actually. I'm not sure how many of them I believe. There's a Jadon Sancho one. More Thomas Souček stuff, which is absolutely rubbish. People still getting it wrong with regard to his contract, so I'll say no more about that. Jose Mourinho story, which is funny, really, isn't it? I'll talk about the Jadon Sancho one. There's also, but it's really some news about the youngsters first of all that I really want to share, and I want to talk about them as much as possible this season, and that's that the under-21s won 5-0 against Middlesbrough. Now, nothing. I think they went third in Premier League 2. Now, nothing overly sensational about that. They're a very, very good bunch of players, as we know. Last year at the age group below, they were. We won the FA Youth Cup. Absolutely brilliant. So we know they're a talented bunch. But it was really what happens there, and it was a thrashing, an absolute thrashing in Middlesbrough. And it's just that our youngsters are so good, that it seems ridiculous and not getting a chance. And I think particularly in the case of Callum Marshall. So Callum Marshall scored a hat-trick last night against Middlesbrough, and the other goal was scored by Earthy and by Orford. And Orford, by all accounts, is playing really, really well in central midfield, which it's really weird. We're deficient. We'll get onto Orford in just a second. Earthy is more of a forward line player, is more of a number 10, really, really good player. All 3 of them are excellent players, actually. Marshall, I believe, is showing that he's too good for this level. He is just too good. He needs to do something else. Now, I understand you can't put him out on loan at the moment, just purely because he's not in a transfer window. But something else needs to be done. And I do think when you are watching Danny Ings play as poorly as he did, and I've made all the excuses for Danny Ings, and we understand why. There's no point labouring the point again. I don't overly blame him. But even once you've established that it's possibly not his fault, you still got to say, well, actually, it's not working. And when we've got a young striker playing this well, I just don't understand why they're not sort of fast-tracking him. And I understand that Mbama's probably ahead of him in a pecking order, and I would agree. But he's not getting a chance either. So I just think the more the central... As I talk of central midfielders in a minute, the more these young players demonstrate and perform to these high levels, I would like to think the more pressure it puts on David Moyes to really include them. Let's be fair, he's got a bunch of substitutes he doesn't use, by and large. I know he brought a lot of them on against Olympiacos, but mostly, in the games that count, he doesn't use them. I think it's time to give some of these boys a chance. I really do. Marshall is sensational, absolutely sensational. I think I made me point on that one. I should talk about Lewis Orford for a second, because he is... We're lacking in midfield. I didn't labour the point massively about how poor Thomas Souček was against Aston Villa. Myself and Gio certainly discussed it on Patreon, and I put a little clip up yesterday, didn't I, from one of our Patreon videos. But it was actually the video we did before that, and Gio went into statistical detail about Souček, and it was bad. It was 8 passes, it was that sort of thing. And when you're that bad, you think, okay, well, let's do something else. Look, clearly Conor Coventry is not part of the present or the future. He's just being kept around because he's homegrown. I think that's a shame for him. He deserves the chance to go on and further his career. He really does. But Freddie Potts is playing really, really well for Wickham at the moment. I think they actually lost in their last game. But Freddie Potts is playing really well. In fact, I'm going to try and get up there. I'll do it. If I do, I'll do a little video. I'm going to try and get up there and watch him play, because it's only about 45 minutes away from me, Wickham. So I'll go and try and have a look at that and report back to you guys on how he's doing on that. Orford has stuck around. Orford is playing really, really well. These guys have got to be viable options, particularly considering we've let Flynn Downs go to Southampton. Flynn Downs playing well for Southampton. The manager there's very, very pleased with him. But there's somebody else, which is Pierre Ekwah. Remember him? So he started the season really, really well at Sunderland under Tony Mowbray. Got an injury, and he's just since come back from the injury, and he seems to have picked up that form. He is one of the best midfielders in that division. He's going on to be a good player. A really good player, I think, by the looks of it. Now, West Ham didn't get a buyback clause on him, as I understand it. I think this was confirmed by West Ham United employee. But I think we might have 35% on a sell-on clause or something like that, which is good, and then there's a certain amount of foresight in that. But I'll tell you now, he seems to be playing so well. And as I think is Flynn Downs, it's really hard to make a case that they wouldn't have got some game time and shouldn't be getting some game time at West Ham. I just really think we're fluffing our lines at this, be it players we let go on loan, players we sell, or the players, the younger players coming through. Look, on Earthy's case, I think Earthy is a magnificent player, and I've said on several occasions he's brilliant. I think the guy underneath him, Dan Rigg, is amazing as well. But I can sort of understand it. We've got Kudus there, we've got Paquetá there. They're not problem positions for us. But I think in terms of the central midfield, particularly bearing in mind the suspension, particularly bearing in mind, I say suspension, the upcoming suspensions, particularly bearing in mind how much James Ward-Prowse is having to play, particularly given Souček's form. I do think actual central midfield, and I mean someone off the bench who can come on and play in that position, is a problem position for West Ham, and I certainly think striker is as well. We don't have to go searching for these players. We have them in the academy, and they're ready to go now, and they're in tip-top form. And I would say amongst their contemporaries, the best of the bunch. They're as good as anything else that any of the other clubs have got. So, I mean, let's put that out there. Look, the Jadon Sancho one, I am... what can I say? It's a no from me. I'd be interested to see what you think. Jadon Sancho has always struck me. I watched him at Borussia Dortmund. I know the story of him leaving from Manchester City. I thought he was really, really good at Dortmund. But one thing that's always struck me about him is for a winger, I found him to be quite slow. I've always looked at him and thought, well, maybe his best position would possibly be just off a striker. I don't know. Am I surprised he hasn't worked out at Man United? Not really. Man United's a funny club. I don't see much difference between Ten Hag and Ole Gunnar Solskjaer or anyone else. I don't overly think it's their fault. I just think it's probably hard for anyone to thrive there. But I don't see the improvement with them there. So maybe he might have done better at another club under a different manager. I just don't think that's his position. And I think in a counter-attacking team, I think he'd get swamped. I don't know what's going on with him. He's quite vocal about a lot of stuff. Trouble seems to follow him, at least in terms of media, social media, that sort of thing. I just don't think we need it. Now, again, it might not be his fault, but I just don't think we need that type of hassle at West Ham, and I just don't think he fits our system at the moment under David Moyes. If we had another system and you get that guy playing more centrally, or where we don't have to counter-attack, where pace is not quite so important, then I think he's probably a good player in there. But where is he at mentally? I've no bloody idea. Truth be known on that one. Just in terms of the Jose Mourinho rumour, it's what can you say? It's the last thing we need, really, isn't it? It's not working out for him at Roma. I think his best days are gone. By the way, I haven't got a dislike for Jose Mourinho that a lot of people have. Yes, he can be moody, he can be grumpy, but also I think he can be quite funny, and I think he can be quite charming. He's got his attributes, but I think as a top-level manager, his days are gone. I think they're past him. I don't want him at West Ham, and I think he's very good at eventually falling out with people, isn't he? It's not what we need. I think if and when we decide to get rid of David Moyes, or however you want to put it, David Moyes chooses to leave, whichever it may well be, I think we absolutely need to try and recruit a manager who is, to use a modern term, progressive. What do I mean by that? I mean possibly a younger manager. I mean possibly someone who wants to play but just more adventurous football, the sort of football that you're probably going to need to pack out a 66,000 seat stadium or whatever we've got now, and somebody that's going to Tim Steiten, well, I was going to say work alongside Tim Steiten. Let's be fair, whoever we get, Tim Steiten's going to appoint, and he ain't going to appoint Jose Mourinho, as we all know. But somebody who's going to get him back to the start of the video, look at these young players, and that can work with Mark Noble as well, and create a pathway that the young players get a chance. And there are lots of those managers, by the way, and I think it'd be a massive waste if we didn't hire one next. Let's be fair, if we went and hired Jose Mourinho, those guys are not getting a chance. Is he a winner? Undoubtedly. But as his career goes on, he has won less and less. The real prolific point of his career was early on. I understand he won the Conference League for Roma the year before we won it, of course. But I'm just not sure it's the direction that West Ham needs to be going in. Do you know what? Sometimes I say let me know in the comments below. I'm pretty sure that majority of you would be with me on that one. Anyway, there you go. Enjoy the rest of the day. I'm about to go and compose an unrealistically unlikely bet. I'm going to try and predict the scorelines of all the Premier League fixtures this weekend, in the hope of winning £1 million off of tuppence or something like that. So, hey, look, if you don't see me on Monday, you know what's happened.